Okay, so welcome everybody. September open mic night. Thanks for coming. I know everyone has so much on their plate with, with all the changes in education. So it's such an honor to have everybody here. And especially to have the State College team here talking about Enhanced Core Reading Instruction, ECRI, and to have actually the two national trainers from the Center for Teaching and Learning, Carol Disson and Jess Searles here as well. We at Patton have been engaged with ECRI. Is it 3 years now, Carol, maybe?
I think
longer.
so.
I think so, 3 years.
I think this is our fourth year, right? Like starting.
Yeah, this is the fourth. Yeah, so wow, what a difference it's made in Pennsylvania. These effective instructional routines for literacy, direct, explicit, all those features that you want to see in every single classroom. I've told Carol if I could wave a magic wand and had all the money in the world, that every classroom in the world would have ECRI, because we've seen what a difference it's made for the educators in Pennsylvania in terms of their instruction. And you're going to hear from those who are implementing in Pennsylvania, and also most especially for our kids. And the team that you're going to hear from tonight has taken these effective instructional routines and also done them virtually, made that transition and done it so well. So I really wanted to share their journey with you, because they have just done such an amazing job and also made that transition so well. I will say that there are also another teams in Pennsylvania, a team from Mifflinburg who presented at the Patton Literacy Symposium, and the team from Bangor School District, which is in the eastern part of the state, who also presented and talked about ECRI as well. So knowing me, you know I created a Padlet with all things ECRI on it for this open mic night. So I just put that into the chat. In that, you'll find a direct link to the Center for Teaching and Learning, so you can find out more about ECRI and get samples. You will see an interview that I did with Carol Disson. She was the first person I interviewed from my Leaders in Learning and Literacy, which is such an honor. A second grade teacher here in South Williamsport, where I live, there's a lesson on YouTube that she's done for ECRI, so you can see what a lesson looks like in a face-to-face classroom, because it was before COVID. And then we have presentations, as I said, from State College School District, from Mifflinburg School District, and as well as from Bangor. So lots of examples and resources for you on that Padlet. And now I think I'm just going to turn it over to our amazing folks from State College to introduce themselves and share details about ECRI. And I made you co-host, except for Jonathan. I think he has to speak.
That's fine. Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Jonathan Klingeman. I'm the Director of Gifted Learning Enrichment and Federal Programs for the State College Area School District. And I also am leading up our MTSS initiatives and development in State College, as well as our RTI for SLD reapplication. We're one of the first districts in the state that was using RTI for SLD application, and we're going through that process again. Due to COVID, I also happen to be a interim elementary school principal this year. So unfortunately, I also have to hang out for a few minutes, but then I'm going to be heading over to a PTO meeting that's happening in another Zoom. But I'm really thankful to be here with three of my colleagues. One of them is Jamie Ramey, who is a first grade teacher at Easterly Parkway Elementary School. One is Lori Corman, who is a Title I reading specialist at Easterly Parkway Elementary School. And our elementary school principal from Easterly Parkway is also here. Her name's Danielle Yoder. Her internet sometimes is a little bit spotty, so you may just see her picture down there. But Danielle, I know that you're there, so hello to you as well.
Hey, thank you.
I'm going to just speak briefly, and then I'm going to turn it over to the team and just kind of give you a little bit of history and background on where we were and how we were. And Danielle's going to speak a little bit more. Through connections with our local IU, just over a historical amount of years, State College seemed to be kind of a district that was really doing a lot of its own thing. And in my opinion, since this is only my fourth year in the district, what I started to see was a disconnect between what was going on in our IUs. So through our connections with our IU and through my work with our Title I reading specialist team, we started to learn a little bit more about what was going on in the state of Pennsylvania through our IUs and through Patton. And with the help of the Title I team and our school psychologists, who I also oversee in the district, we started to make better connections and to look at what we could be doing better. And that led us to getting involved in a series last year. The early literacy, is that what it was? Enhanced early literacy, is that what it is?
Yeah, enhanced early literacy outcomes.
Yeah, outcome series. And that was the beginning of our journey. We were lucky enough to send an entire team of first grade teachers, reading specialists, ESL teachers, principals, school psychologists down to Patton to get introduced to Carol, who again, Carol and Jess, thank you for all that you do and everything that you have done to support State College. We are just so thrilled to be able to have you in not only State College, but and everywhere else. And through that, our team started really a grassroots movement moving forward with a lot of change that has now started at Easterly Parkway and is kind of brewing across the district. We are just in the middle of starting another school in its first year implementation of ECRI, and are starting to see how that could potentially look in the future of our district. Just a little bit of history about the district, a little bit more. We have traditionally been a district that is more of a whole language approach in taking a look at things. A great majority of our students do come in as readers. However, we do have about 20% of our school district at the free and reduced lunch level, and some of our elementary schools, Easterly Parkway included, at the about 30%. So even though that it's pretty low compared to some other places that I have been, it just goes to show that there are still specific needs within the schools, no matter of the poverty levels within a school district. And what I know that the first grade team is going to talk to you about today is really about what they saw, and really too, the importance of equity and providing a core experience that all kids deserve, regardless of their regardless of their experiences coming in from families. Given that we have the university in our backyard, a lot of our children are coming in with very, very high readers. We have a very high gifted population as well. And it has been an absolute honor to just watch and see how this Easterly Parkway team has been able to take that under Danielle's leadership and through the help of Patton. And I'm really, really thankful for that. So as we started through that journey in October, boom, COVID hit, and the team started to figure out that the way to keep moving was through building on these relationships and to not let this go. And I credit that entire Easterly Parkway team for really being able to dedicate their time to provide virtual lessons and et cetera. I'm sure at the end of this presentation, if you are interested in seeing those videos, Pam can send out. Pam, I'll shoot you an email with the direct link. We have a Google form if you want to fill it out. I will put those of you who may not have access to see those videos and what we've put together out there for you. And it does include a website as well that we provided to the families to be able to kind of see that. So I'm going to stop talking because I know that Jamie and Lori and Danielle have a lot more to say, and it's great with the content, but it's always great to be here, Pam. And like I said, I will send you an email with that specific link so that you can share it with everyone at the end. So,
Oh, thank you, Jonathan. Your leadership is so important to this. Jonathan failed to tell you too that he's going through letters. He's going through letters training as well. He wears many hats.
Well, and it was so funny today because we had our first Title I reading specialist meeting, and I had some of the reading specialists who may have been in a little bit, how do I say this, different mindset about reading intervention, said, hey, when are we starting letters? We really, really want to get started in that. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, what's happening? The world is moving forward. The one last thing that I want, Lori, make sure that you share with this group, I think, when I have to hop off here, a little bit maybe about how the train got rolling with MTSS in terms of Kilpatrick's phonemic awarenesses, which is really what got the train moving into some change as well. So I will share with Pam that link, and then I'll let this team go ahead and get started. But I'm going to turn it over to Danielle next. She usually is the next one to speak, and then we'll go from there. So thanks again, everybody.
Thank you, Jonathan. Really appreciate it. Before Danielle starts, I'm just going to, again, because if people came in later, I have created a Padlet that has information to direct you to the Center for Teaching and Learning for ECRI. It also has an interview of Carol Disson, who's one of the national trainers for ECRI, discussing ECRI with me in a Leadership for Learning and Literacy webcast. In addition, there's a second grade lesson from Lauren Reynolds from South Main School District, and presentations from State College Easterly Parkway for the Patent Literacy Symposium, Bangor School District, and Mifflinburg School District, who are exemplar school districts that are implementing ECRI in Pennsylvania. So make sure you check that out. I'll be adding this recording to that Padlet, as well as the drive that Jonathan just mentioned as well. All right, so take it away.
All right, thank you. Jamie and Lori, I can see you, and I want to apologize to everybody for not having my video on. Am I coming through clear or am I jumble? I am
Very
good. So I cannot say enough of how grateful we were to get the opportunity last year to take a team from State College down to Patan, or Patton, I'm sorry, and get the ECRI training. And just to give you a little bit of background, Jonathan talked about State College. Historically, Easterly Parkway is the 9th out of 9 elementary schools, or now 8, one school combined. But when they looked at district and state data year after year, we fell to the bottom. We have a large ESL population. About 30% of our students come in as ESL students, but we honestly have several more students who don't qualify for ESL services, but still come from a lot of international families from Penn State that bring their children over. And in most recent years, we have at Easterly, unlike the other elementary schools in the district, a larger population of families who have come to us from Guatemala. So historically, our school has a culture that we love kids and we just want them to feel loved. And it doesn't matter if they're not reading. We just want them to feel love and feel support. And that we knew had to change, and really try to get rid of that mindset. And I think ECRI has really proven to people that it doesn't matter who you are when you walk in. This is an approach that can benefit all students. It can benefit the non-speaker of English, and it can benefit the highest child in the kindergarten, first or second grade classroom. And Jamie and Lori will talk tonight, but we believed in it, but it also took collaboration, teamwork, and a lot of stress that went with it, because when you are, like Jonathan said, having people on your team that only ever were trained in a whole language approach and never heard of the science of reading and never really understood that phonemics awareness and phonics played a key role, and they were believers, again, of just immersing them in a literacy and they would learn to read. There's stress that comes with that, but the support of each other is what we believe through the first grade team. And really, Lori Corman is the Title I teacher, just kept saying, we've got to do this. And if you can't do it, that's fine. We'll do it. And then the data, guys, I'm telling you this, if you buy into this approach, the data is going to sell itself. We in 1 year were able to take a kindergarten and second grade team. We trained them this summer, and they are now sending their recordings to Lori and asking for input because they're seeing the results from, I think Jamie will tell you, we kicked this off in November, December of last year, hit COVID in March, and still had better gains than we had seen in full years of just the implementation of the reading workshop approach. So I will certainly answer any questions, but Jamie has been at the meat of it. She is a first grade teacher, and Lori is supporting her with the previewing and the reviewing and helping people understand that MTSS is more of a merging, that we've got to meet the kids where they are and support them however. So they will be able to share really the true story of our approaches.
Anyone have questions for Danielle before Lori and Jamie jump in? Because I think it's really important to think about the principal's perspective. So if there's anyone on the meeting tonight that wants to ask specific questions to Danielle, please feel free to do so right now.
It's really helpful to have a principal who's a reading specialist. Let me just say.
Well, reading specialist, I will speak for myself when I say this. I was a reading specialist for many years and didn't know what I didn't know. So sometimes, that reading specialist, I really didn't know enough about the science of reading. So, but I do want to commend you, Danielle, because Patton does have the honor of working in school districts across the state. And one thing we've learned over and over again, of course, which is common sense, but is without leadership, you have these islands of excellence. You might have a teacher here or there implementing best practices that maybe they heard about ECRI and they're in there trying to do it themselves. But if you want to change a system, you need leadership, and you need leadership that supports teachers and sustains that rather than kind of jumping from thing to thing. And I have to say that's rarer than, of course, all of us would like, and I want to commend you for that. Leadership is second to the classroom teacher or an interventionist teacher. It's leadership that makes a difference. And so I want to say thank you for the kids in State College and Easterly Parkway that your leadership has really made all the difference. And as Jonathan as well, it really is a big lever and change. So thank you for that.
Well, and if I could say one more thing, I think it is very important for anybody on here, whether you're an administrator or a teacher or whomever. I was fortunate to have Jonathan as one other administrator on my side. So again, State College is, and I'm not saying this is wrong, but we had fully bought in to the Lucy reading and writing. And we are still using mini lessons and things like that, but there was a lot of push and pull last year when we were the only school in State College that was trying an approach that our university town really hadn't bought into, I guess is a nice word to say it, when they trained their teachers. Phonics and phonemic awareness and a lot of the other components were just not part of it. So it was constant, let us show you, let us try, and really that push clear up to our assistant superintendent, because there were a couple times that people were saying, we think you should just pull the plug and do what everybody else is doing. And that fight of, no, this is working. Guys, we brought in the superintendent, we brought in the school board. I said, I want to take you to first grade. So we just kept showing it. We talked about it at the PTO meetings and said, what questions do you have? Like, this is what the science of reading is. So we want to share it with you. We were upfront with everybody. And what has happened this year is, like Jonathan said, we now have our second elementary school, and we are in now the MTSS cohort, and they're saying to Lori and I, whoa, why don't we have this? Why can't we be doing this? And we really push that this is not a Title I. This is not a Tier 2 or Tier 3. This is every single child can benefit from this program, and Tier 2 and Tier 3 can take it even further. And it's just really helping people believe that. But if you believe as strongly as our team did, it's worth the fight the whole way up. And like I said, the proof will be there. So it's you will have firsthand experience. The kids will tell you many of the kids, it's a favorite part of their day. Interestingly enough, your higher level kids, it might be their toughest part of the day. But that's because not all parts of this are easy. And those kids who may be great readers but not writers, this is pushing them to spell correctly. It's pushing them to write better. And it's a push that they're not, necessarily used to. But in the end, their results are soaring too. So go ahead, Jamie.
Oh, thank you. That's inspiring, honestly.
Well,
Truly, it's about equity. All kids deserve a principal and leadership like Jonathan, and deserve teachers like Lisa and or like Lori and Jamie. So thank you again.
yes, thank you.
Jamie or
like me
Lori,
to-
I made you co-host, so you'll be able to share a screen or do anything you like.
Would you like me to share the video first, or do you think it would be beneficial to do that, or would you like us to just go straight into the presentation?
I'm going to leave that completely up to you, Jamie. What do you think?
Video
is best?
first? I kind of love this video.
Okay.
Jonathan made the video for us.
Video
so
first.
let me.
Okay.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our presentation. My name is Danielle Yoder. I'm the principal at Easterly Parkway Elementary School. It's located in the State College Area School District and is in Center County, Pennsylvania. We're going to talk to you a little bit about our background with reading and success, and I'm going to start by sharing a little bit of background about Easterly Parkway. Easterly Parkway is one of 8 elementary schools in the State College Area School District. Each year we have between about 310 and 350 students who come to us, and they enter grades kindergarten through 5th grade. We have about 35% of our students who receive free and reduced lunch, and 29% receive ESL services. Our school receives a lot of students who come from international families that attend Penn State University for grad programs. And in recent years, we have had a significant increase in our Guatemalan families who also attend Easterly Parkway. We are very diverse. We have an international feel, and we pride ourselves on being inclusive. A little bit about our background with reading and MTSS. So in the past years, we have used really a workshop approach. We teach according to our curriculum guidelines, and teachers have different resources that they can use. What I found, I began in 2018, soon after arriving, is there was very little phonemic awareness or phonics that was explicitly taught or used as part of the daily instruction in kindergarten through 2nd grade. So in 2018-19, our kindergarten and 1st and even 2nd grade agreed to try out some Hagerty phonemic awareness and began to see results with our students. One thing I didn't share about Easterly Parkway, as of the 8 schools in the State College school system, we have been known as the lowest performing. A lot of times we share that is because we have the influx of, 29% of our staff or students, come from ESL backgrounds, but we decided that we can no longer use that excuse, and we want all students to be able to grow. We just weren't sure of what tools to use. So as I stated, we used phonemic awareness in 2018-19, and we applied for PTAN's Enhanced Early Literacy Outcomes grant that they were offering as part of the MTSS series, and we were accepted. So in the fall, we embraced on this journey to find out a little bit more about the approaches for this series, more specifically the ECRI approach to reading. I am going to have a title teacher today talk, as well as one of our 1st grade teachers, to really share the successes and how they jumped into that. But it really has been a shift in culture, and for me personally, it is changing our practice. Not only is it changing our practices of instruction and engaging all kids, but the engagement that we are seeing and the engagement opportunities in our kids is nothing like I've ever seen in the 28 years of teaching. So I am thrilled to have teachers present to you today and then follow up with answering any questions regarding our ECRI approach.
Hello, my name's Laurie Corman, and I'm one of the title teachers at Easterly Parkway Elementary School.
Hi there, my name is Jamie Ramey. I'm one of the 1st grade teachers at Easterly Parkway Elementary with Katie Housel and Maria Neely. So I'm just going to tell you a little bit about our journey this year. So our team started as a brand new team. I'd been at Easterly for a few years. Katie had been at Easterly for a few years, but she had moved from 4th grade down to 1st grade this past school year. And Maria Neely came to us from Brooklyn, New York this year. So we were a new team, getting to know each other, learning each other's styles and personalities, building trust. Our ECRI journey really began in October when we went for a training. So 4 days of us with our huge team.
Our team was large because of the makeup of our school. So it included our principal, our director of curriculum, our 3 1st grade teachers, the learning support teacher, the ESL teacher, the psychologist, the IST teacher, the coach, and myself. We met every Wednesday for our PLCs to discuss how we were going to move forward, how it was going to look. Sometimes we would invite our IU consultant, Heather Spots, to come and help us. At the beginning, she was there all the time helping us out and making sure that we were doing the routines correctly and with fidelity.
And I think one of the biggest things for us was collaboration, support, conversation. And this is just a theme that keeps coming up when I reflect on our journey as a team. We were regularly having conversations with each other and asking, did you run into this? What did you do when you said this? And we were able to have those conversations with each other. And if we didn't know the answer, we had support that we were able to get the answers from. But we also had this team support at our school. We had our title teachers. We had our principal. We had our director of federal programs stopping in to see the lessons and to see if we needed anything. So we had this cohesive team with this end goal of all students benefiting. And when our focus is the kids, it really takes a lot of the other layers away.
The two biggest, most powerful things for my Tier 2 kids have been the pre-teach and the routines. We fiddled with our schedules enough that we could get the pre-teach in before the classroom teacher does her teaching. So my title students receive a pre-teach of the same exact lesson that they're going to get before they get it with the classroom teacher. And we have found that they really are able to participate a lot more during the classroom teacher's lesson. And they also feel more confident about what they know because they've already been through the lesson once. Which really did support that we did it as a pre-teach instead of a review. The other thing are the routines. I find my kids feel really successful with knowing and learning the knowledge that I'm trying to give them because they know the routines already. There's no guessing on how our day is going to go for our 30 minutes in my room. We do the same exact routines every day. And the kids really like it. I thought at first they might be a little reluctant or get bored, but I think because they are confident in knowing what's going to happen, the learning then just comes much more easily to them. We found a lot of good success with the program for my Tier 2 students. This is the first year that I can say all my first graders can blend predictable words or regular words that follow the rules. And they also have found such success with the decodable text. They really like to read it more than once. Some of the behaviors that I used to get, I just don't find that I get this year because students are more successful with the program and with being able to read, and they feel like they are readers. So it's really been a great addition to my teaching and to helping my students become better readers.
One of our big concerns as we moved online is how are we going to continue delivering this instruction for our students, because we have seen so much growth so far. We did not want to see our kids just stop. So as a team, with, again, a lot of collaboration, support, conversations, and a lot of trial and error, we have been providing our lessons over video. So we've been recording the lessons ourselves as teachers, which are then posted to a website securely that our students have access to, that they are able to do independently. And the way that we've kind of worked with that is, with ECRI, one of the important pieces is that the students are participating, and that if they are not saying the correct word, there is a correction piece. And if they don't know the word, they have other students around them that are providing the correct response so that they're exposed to it. So the way that we've done that is, as the teacher, we are having the student read. So when we go through our routine today, we're going to practice reading words. When I point to the word, say the word in your head. When I slide my finger, read the word out loud, and then listen to see if what you say matches what I say. So we point, we slide, we allow that time for a student to respond, and then we say the word out loud. This takes slightly more time, but the students are then able to be exposed to the words if they're not reading accurately. And if they're inaccurate, they're getting that immediate response and feedback, which is crucial for them in their development in reading. Hi friends, it's Mrs. Ramey. We are going to get started with Unit 5, Lesson 23, Day 1. You are going to learn to read some new words using say it, spell it, say it. My turn, word, again. Your turn, word, spell again. Word. My turn, word, boy. Your turn, word, spell boy. Word. Father. Great job, friends. Let's do some individual turns. When I point to a word, say the word in your head. When I slide my finger, read that word out loud and listen to see if the word you say matches what I say. Word. Along. Great job. Word. Together. Fantastic. Keep it up. Word. Father. Awesome, friends. Let's get to the sound spelling cards. You're going to practice the sound spelling cards. When I tap the card, you'll tell me the name of the card, the sound, and the spelling. Card, book, sound, spelling, O. Card, bird, sound, first spelling, ER. Second spelling, IR. Third spelling, you are. If you need another moment, go ahead and press pause. If not, we're going to get started with the word good. Good. My G is going to start just like that letter A. Just below that line, we're going to go up and around, up, way down, up. It's an underwater letter. And then I have my O pattern, up and around, D. Do you know where to start it? Yeah, all of our letters today started in that same place. We went up and around, up, way down, up and around, up and around, up and around, way up and down. Oh my goodness, all of those letters started in the same place. I want you to check and make sure that you spelled your word good. G-O-O-D. I want you to check and make sure they are all lowercase and that your D is up and around, way up and down, facing the correct direction.
Okay, so I'm gonna teach you how to write jar from week 3, lesson 21, learned from Mrs. Housel. Okay, so word jar. Word is jar. Word jar. What is it? Yesterday, I opened a jar of Nutella to make a peanut butter and Nutella sandwich. Word, jar. Say the sounds in jar, j, r. Say the sounds in jar with me again, j, r. Write the word jar. J, A, R. Okay, I'm gonna check my word. J, A, R. Right word. Okay, so I got the word right, got everything right. Okay, bye. Thank you for watching. I did an ECRI lesson.
We continue to have conversations about how things are going. We're moving to looking how we can support students in small groups with some of those interventions in an online environment on Zoom. So Laurie Corman and Maria Neely are doing small groups with our Tier 3 students doing kindergarten ECRI to meet with them. And again, it's still a work in progress, but that's what we figured out so far to try and meet the needs of our students. ECRI has given us the opportunity to have a program that has been rigorously tested and is evidence-based, that we have our next steps in place. We know we are giving all of our students this amazing tier 1 instruction. And if students are not making progress, it is not because I did something wrong. It is because we need to give them more support. And we have very structured supports that are consistent across our grade level and consistent across our team that's working with our students. Since there is consistency across all of us, the first grade teachers, the title teachers, the ESL teachers, the special education teachers, we are able to flexibly group because there's no change, there's no shift that these students have to make. This is a routine that they are familiar with, that as long as they know that routine that we have all set up consistently, they are able to be successful in this program.
I love that video so much. And it's funny to even look back and kind of reflect, because that we had put together at the end of last year, and we've also, like, so much has changed and happened, and we've grown so much over the summer as well. So is it okay if I kind of hop to like where that ended and where we are now, like to just kind of share a little bit about that? So we ended the school year, and again, we are so lucky to have such amazing support and team members. So Jonathan magically figured out a way for us to continue doing ECRI through the summer as like a summer champs camp virtually with our students at Easterly Parkway. So we invited our students that were in Title I, but also students that were those like bubble kids, the kids that were struggling and needed a tier 2 light intervention, but they didn't qualify for the Title I intervention services. So we were able to invite those students as well. And Maria Neely and I, who is a spitfire of a teacher, we met with our students every day, 5 days a week for 6 weeks. And I should have pulled up the video of the little girl who's telling us how much she loves this and how she doesn't want virtual summer school to end. And she had so much fun on Zoom, which if you've ever taught summer school, like you have to teach it once and then you know you never really want to again, but you get suckered into it. That message of hers was like, okay, that's why we did this summer. The students were able to not only not regress, the students were continuing to make progress. And when I looked at the model of the rest of our summer school, because remember, like we were the only team in the entire district doing this. It was 3 first grade teachers at our little sweet Easterly Parkway, like just flying under the radar, doing our own thing. And it really has had a huge impact for our students in the power that they have. We don't have kids guessing garbage while they read anymore. So it has been really amazing to see that. And Laurie, while I pull up the presentation, if there was anything else you wanted to add just about this summer as well.
It was funny watching it back because I'm like, oh, we have a couple more examples of like, oh my gosh. And one of the little girls that was in summer school this summer that we had in tier 3 in the winter of the year, because she had just come to us, she speaks, I think, 2 other languages and English. And so she was in the tier 1 in the classroom, but then she came to us for tier 1 in kindergarten and was starting to make some gains. And then she went to summer school. Well, I picked her up this week we tested last week, and I was like, oh my gosh. She came and she said, I can read for you, Mrs. Corman. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, she did. And then we started our ECRI lesson this week, and she's like screaming in the camera, I need to read this all by myself. Nobody else can talk. And I'm like, okay, we will make a deal. When we are finished with our lesson, you stay on and you can read the whole story. And she just read the second grade ECRI story all by herself. And her and another little girl, I keep saying, you make my heart happy. Because the other little girl we've had in tier 3 for kindergarten, first grade, and then she was in second grade yet last year. We brought her down to the first grade ECRI because I was trying reading mastery. I tried all kinds of programs with her. It just wasn't. And she too, at the end of summer, was like, oh, I got this, Mrs. Corman. I'm okay now. I can read. And I'm like, this in my 30 plus years of teaching has just never happened to those kids that, like, I keep searching for, like, what's the best thing to do with them? Am I not finding the right books? Are we not doing the right phonics program? Like, how is this? But it just brings that, with the Heggerty and the ECRI, it just brings what they need to become proficient readers together. And so actually, we have had even better success with the summer school program than I even imagined. So it has been really powerful to be a part of this.
As Jamie is pulling that up, we're always looking at ways to kind of, I don't know, trick the system, sneak things into the system. And that's kind of how we got summer school going. Jonathan had some money. We were like, we can't lose this. We've got to see what it's done with everything that happened with COVID. Lori was talking about the second one she was talking about actually got identified last year and has and now has an IEP. And the way you get people to believe is we didn't give up on the EL students, and we didn't give up on the kids that would have gone to special ed. They continued to be our kids because we were out to prove that ECRI would work. And I just said to the special education teacher today about the third grade girl, she's going to be out of special ed by 5th grade. There is no doubt in our mind. The parents love ECRI. They have watched it on video, which is we probably wouldn't have had we didn't have this whole virtual mess that we're all in. So it actually benefited because they're able to support her. She knows what she's doing. We have the connection with Mrs. Corman. We've now pushed the special ed teacher that didn't really want to change and was stuck in her programs to realize that ECRI is evidence-based and it can be used in special ed. So now she's using it. And this little girl she is higher than multiple kids now in 3rd grade. And was, like we said, she went to the 1st grade classroom. So the same thing with the EL students. Once they began to take off, our ELL teachers just really struggled as to why they should be doing this, and was this really the thing? And now they're seeing the results. So we're now getting the buy-in there. So that one little seed that they talk about, it has just really blossomed because, again, the belief is there. And that's how we're kind of sneaking more teachers in and getting more people excited and believers in the program.
Okay, I'm going to do one more just sneaky talk too. So I was at a training, this is like pre-COVID, and I'm at a training for some new science that we're doing, and a principal at one of the other schools comes up to me, and she's at one of the schools that is one of the very wealthy schools in State College. And she goes, tell me about this ECRI. And I said, okay, I can't tell you right now, but when that person walks out of the room, I'm going to show you our data. So at like lunchtime, the person's not there, and I bring over my laptop and I'm like, look at this data. Look at these SGPs. And I was able to go through, and she's like, we need this. We need this at all of our schools. And then I've talked to the 1st grade teachers at that school on their team, and they're like, okay, we buy in, we're ready. We just need to make it happen. I'm like, well, I don't know if we're allowed to just make that happen yet, but we're going to keep trying. So it's been really powerful for these students. And I think for us, because that student that Danielle and Laurie are talking about, that student that qualified for an IEP was in my class the previous year before ECRI. So it was not that Laurie and I were not working our tuchuses off, because we were working so hard for this girl, and we just needed ECRI for her. We needed a structured system of support for her. And to see how far she's come, I constantly think about students that I have had in my past that this would have changed reading for them. So I'm glad we have it now, so we don't have to continue on that pattern, because now I meet students and I say, well, you are in the right place. because we are the team for you. So come on in.
Hey, Jamie, real quick, there's a question in the chat before we start. It's from Eileen. How many hours per child per day in summer? And it was one-to-one or group?
Oh, great question. Okay, so over the summer, we had 2 reading specialist student teachers that came and worked with us. So we had a group of about 20 students that we broke into 4 small groups for a total of an hour. So for a half hour, Maria and I would take, 3 to 5 kids, depending on the day. We would do the full ECRI for that day. And then we would swap groups with our reading specialist student teachers for that opposite half hour. And then they would do Heggerty, they would do, they'd play Jeopardy with ECRI words and sounds. So they were reinforcing the skills in a different way. It was a total of about an hour. We typically didn't go the full time because the other piece, when we were talking previously and we got to meet with Carol and Jess earlier, just about like how virtual was going. And Carol said something about, how are you assessing? We're like, I don't know yet. We're putting out our videos. So we have them doing the decodable text each day, and Seesaw is our platform. So we've been having them record themselves reading the decodable text. So we would typically end a few minutes early. And then their job was to go read and record the decodable text. So we had 2 separate groups that we would meet with. That first group was larger. They were our students that were those tier 2 kids. And then we had a smaller group come right after that for a half hour. And that's one of the students that Laurie was talking about who just like took off. And we have another student that was working on kindergarten ECRI. So the kids for the majority of the group were there for 1 hour, but a half hour was ECRI.
And there's a question another follow-up question from Eileen, and is Carol still on? I have to go down through and see. She might be the best. Yeah, she was probably the best one to answer this question. She would answer it most thoroughly. So she's asking if ECRI is an approach versus a curriculum, and how is it similar to structured literacy or direct instruction?
Yeah. Thank you for somebody putting the link up there. I appreciate that. I really wanted to hear Jamie and Lori and Danielle. I wanted to hear them.
Okay, all right. Okay, then we'll wait. They'll wait till maybe to the end. We only really have like 11 minutes left, but we'll.
Yeah, just really quickly, somebody put the link on there. It is a curriculum that is supposed to be overlaid. Why it's called enhanced core reading instruction. It's not supposed to replace your core reading instruction. It's supposed to enhance what you're doing based on strategies that do follow structured literacy or little d, little I direct instruction.
Yep. And that link is also on the Padlet. It's the first thing on the Padlet that you'll see. Okay, go Jamie, go
I'm
Lori.
gonna fly through this really quick.
Oh, that's okay, no.
Just real quick before we fly through this, because we do use units of phonic study, we were allowed to use the journeys to overlay the ECRI onto it, because there really wasn't a structure for us to overlay ECRI onto with what we had. So we were allowed to use journeys.
That's good.
Thank goodness. So this is our data from the fall to the winter. And I just want to remind everyone, we did not start ECRI until October. So we went for the training, and this is from starting in October, fast tracking through some beginning lessons to January benchmarking. And when we started this year, we were hearing this class that you're getting is a strong class. But when the year started, we still had half of our students falling into that tier 3. So in a very short amount of time, we saw some pretty amazing tier movement before COVID hit. So I don't know, Laurie, if there's anything else you wanted to say about this. I'm gonna fly through some of these just because I think we've addressed some of it. So this is, again, from fall to winter, this is our word reading fluency. So you can see just a huge improvement right there. This is our nonsense word fluency, and this freaked us out a little bit, but our school psychologist assured us it was okay. So I'm going to skip past that one and go straight to the oral reading fluency. So that oral reading fluency, I feel like, is really intimidating for a lot of our students, especially our students that view themselves as struggling readers. And I feel like one of the pieces of ECRI is it has removed that you are a struggling reader from that student's mind. So quick anecdotal story, I had a student that joined us. They were living in the women's shelter. They were homeless. The mom is crying when I meet her, and she says she doesn't know how to read. And she had been in 6 schools already in 1st grade. So she comes in, we do our first ECRI lesson. Her eyes are like dinner plates. And she's just kind of following along, doesn't really say anything. And we sit down with that decodable text, and sweet girl says, I actually don't think I need your help. I actually think I know how to read now. Like the power that she gained in 30 minutes, like you can actually blend these sounds together to make words. That is the power that these students no longer need, this guessing strategy that I feel like whole language really heavily relies on, that we have given them the skills so they don't have to just guess and check. And then this is some of our class by class data. So just looking at, and I don't know if everyone, I learned about this year. So our SGPs, this was really important information for us. And Jen Collins, when we gave our presentation, really helped us to look at what students we need to intensify our interventions for, what students are making great progress, and what students, you know, where we need to be concerned and where we don't need to be concerned. So we have their fall percentiles right here, the tier that they fell into, 1, 2, or 3, and then their winter percentile. And their winter tier is over here. So the SGP, let me see if I can explain it correctly, is the student growth percentile. So if I'm looking at this student right here in the 2nd percentile, this student grew more than 95% of other students in the 2nd percentile nationally. Did I say that right, Pam? Did I get it?
You did say that right.
Yes. Okay.
Because
So-
they're norming to the student who's just like them, and they have an enormous database in their norm. So that's something to definitely be cheering about. And then
Yeah, so we saw some of these high numbers and we were just like, yes. So I'm going to go to my class real quick just because I know these kids, and I want to point out one kid in particular, this 92nd percentile, my smarty kid who knew everything, and he was the one that was shouting out, but man, that no payout slot machine that Carol talks about worked exactly for him. It was the prompt and praise, and he needed that. And he grew from the 92nd percentile to the 97th. So we talk about those kids at the top end because that's where I always get the most pushback. But his writing was garbage. And the reason his writing was garbage is he knew that what he was writing did not match what he saw in text, but he could not reproduce the words. So we didn't like to do it because it wasn't perfect. So when we gave him the skills and the strategies to write, he took off with his writing too. I actually grabbed my daughter's whiteboard from her lesson that she did in ECRI today from our asynchronous day. Because I think the spelling piece for those kids that are readers is really important. This is an overview of what our tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 looked like. So we're still doing our readers workshop, but we were using Lucy Calkins reading as our main resource, and we have really had to readjust what lessons we are using because there are so many lessons on guessing and checking and reading strategies that our students no longer need to rely on because they are readers. So that's been really powerful as well. Collaboration, which we've talked about over and over, that we are so lucky to have such a strong team. Oh, and this was a specific student. So I'm going to stop sharing right there just so I can make sure there's time for questions. Oh, and Charlie's going to join us. Sorry about that.
Hi, Charlie. Your mom's a rock star teacher. Okay. Carol Disson is here as well. So she really is the expert here. But questions for Jamie and Lori and Danielle? You have to have questions, that's for sure. I cannot imagine. Just unmute yourself. Or if you need me to unmute you, just let me know.
Can they talk to the differences in, like, just looking at the ECRI website on the options that you can purchase? Can they talk about the different options that there are? There's like an interventionist, a teacher, and I think it was a leader.
Mm-hmm. That might be a Carol.
That is Carol, but that's also us. So that
Okay.
there's some of each of you in every school. So when we went through the training, we had all of those manuals. The core manual was really kind of what they use. Lori would be able to tell you, she's compared them, and Carol can. But with your team, when you really think of it as a team approach, all of those different components fall into your school. So we had all of those manuals.
And they're not, there's either deletions or additions to them, but the core chapters are identical across those books. So the leadership book has the most in there. The teacher workbook includes vocabulary and comprehension, and the interventionist workbook is just the code-based skills. And doesn't include vocabulary and comprehension, but there are, you wouldn't get the leadership book as an individual and an interventionist book, because you have everything you need as an individual in the leadership book. I was wondering,
Go ahead, Carol.
I was just wondering, just two things. I was wondering if you guys could share, like, what's the most important things that you did in order to get high quality delivery of ECRI across your team? That's one question I have. And then the other question that I have is, what's the most important thing you did to get high quality virtual delivery of ECRI going?
I'm going to let Jamie talk about the virtual, but Jamie, I'd like to pop in. One of the things these teachers did that they would have never, I don't believe Jamie would have done, but I had 2 brand new teachers to first grade, and they bought into, first of all, letting our IU coach, Heather Spots, come in, but they recorded themselves over and over and over. I walked in the one day, and a teacher we moved her from 4th to 1st grade, and she would share this with you. Her engagement was lacking. She learned so much that she was able to carry her practice over, but there she sat with her cell phone. And I looked at her and she said, "Don't worry, Mrs. Yoder, I'm just recording because I need to get this down to whatever, I forget what the minute was, and I'm slow right now. And our class, we're going to get better." And then they took those to their PLCs and they shared them, and they opened themselves up to it being okay that we're not perfect. How do we get better? And when that happened, that is when the consistency, the engagement strategies were there. Everything started to come together. And like I said, we have a 2nd grade teacher that after you left me at the training in August, almost made me cry, because after you cut off in our training, she said, "I just need to tell you, this is not the way we were trained to teach students, and I'm not sure it's going to work." And I was like, "Oh, where's Carol?" But she is doing it, and she is sharing her videos with Lori. Now, virtually, I'd rather Jamie talk, but when we were in person to get that kicked off, that to me was huge.
Well, and we had Heather Spots coming in and doing the fidelity checks. So she had her checklist and we'd be doing a lesson. And I think there is a lot of trust with our team, which is really big. And I think the 3 of us really do balance each other well, because we have 3 very different personalities, but I'm so sorry. We have 3 very different personalities. Okay, go ahead, Bubba. But we were all very open with each other. And when someone would say, "This was really hard for me," we would all openly talk about how hard pieces were. We would rely on Heather. We would watch videos. We were recording ourselves. And then the second question was about the virtual. How are we doing the high quality virtual? And man, that was hard to put ourselves out there because we also had parents that were watching us. And I think there was this other piece of we still felt very new. And then we were putting ourselves out there for these parents to see us teaching this and trying to make sure we were doing what was best for our students. So again, we had trial and error. We met with Carol and Jess to get ideas, and then just talking to other schools. So I hate COVID and I hate all of this, but there have been some really unique, lovely opportunities that have come out of this. So just talking to other teams that are on this journey and having a Zoom meeting with them has been really great too, to just hear, oh, well, we just pulled out our dot cameras and we did this. And it's like, oh, that makes things so much easier. So working smarter and not harder was one of the big pieces. And just knowing that we could always change and tweak as we went.
Jamie, there's a question about the pre-teach, and Lori, do you want to address that? Because that came up in one of our other ECRI teams, and Carol was a big help with that as well. But Lori, you talked about the pre-teach, so do you mind sharing?
Sure. We did find that when we first came back, we did it as we were trying to pre-teach after they had gotten the lesson for the next day. And we found it was just way more powerful to do it before we had it so that they came to us, they got a pre-teach and then went directly into the first grade's lesson. And the first grade teachers were all like, oh my gosh, they're participating. And they hadn't been participating before. So they really, it was interesting to watch the kids kind of like, they would come the next day and they were like, oh, this is so easy. And kind of like they were experts at it already. But just that double dose for them really gave them the confidence to be able to participate in class. And so it was, again, I've been doing this for a long time, and just to watch some of the parts of ECRI be so powerful for kids, not only in them being better, but just feeling much better about themselves. It was just twofold.
Setting them up for success.
Yeah.
Yes. One thing I want to bring up that I saw, and when in the Central Dauphin School District, that was they were involved with us on research around Haggerty, but also doing ECRI. And I want to talk about error correction, because oftentimes in teaching we silo things. We say, oh, I'm doing ECRI now, or I'm doing Haggerty now. And of course, ECRI is interfaced with all the direct instruction, systematic instruction that the meta structure is there, right? But sometimes people get stuck in these silos. So we're in watching a Haggerty lesson from the PLC. There's like 25 teachers watching the other teacher. And the kids made an error in Haggerty, and she stopped and went, my turn, modeled the correct, and went, your turn. And I wanted to run around, because the structure of ECRI is, excellent instruction, explicit instruction, direct instruction, but teachers are learning that meta structure, and they're not just doing it, do you know what I mean? When they're in the ECRI lesson, they're beginning to internalize the structure of an explicit lesson, opportunities to respond, the focus, the cue, the wait time, or the think time, and then the error correction. I mean, that to me was extremely powerful to see how these explicit instruction pedagogical skills were transferring into other things. And the same thing with the pre-teach. We see, kids being much more successful in participating, and that not only academics improve, but self-efficacy improves and the ability to take risk. Yeah.
And I will have to say the journey was not easy for us, because it wasn't like everybody was accepting of this and everybody thought it was a great idea. We really kind of went out on a limb, and because we got the results we did, it kind of made everybody else kind of stop and say, what are you guys doing? Because I saw somebody said, well, what if they say no? The first grade team was awesome. There was no no's in there, but there were no's a lot of other places. And we just kind of kept saying, let us give a try. If it, like with our other cohorts, like, because you do end up doing a lot of those routines, or those, like when I do my Haggerty lessons when I videotape them, I say, my turn, your turn. That's all does bleed into the rest of your teaching. But we were trying to do some of this pre-teach in other places, and people were like, we really think the review is better. And so it was a lot of conversation, an enormous amount of conversation, and like, just trust us for a month, and then we can come back and talk about it. But it wasn't at times I was kind of glad COVID came, because it got tiring to have those conversations constantly. And so at one point I said to Jonathan, the best thing about COVID is I don't have to explain myself anymore in person. I can do it over video. And what are they going to say to me? Because I will have to say there was one administrator that I probably had weekly conversations with. And thank goodness that Pam and Carol taught us enough that I did feel confident in saying what I needed to say and kind of standing my ground. But it wasn't an easy journey looking back. But once you see these kids, like, and who they become as readers and as students, it makes it all worthwhile. But Jamie will agree, it was not an easy journey.
Thank you, Lori. I did see that Carol placed in the chat. And Carol, if you want to elaborate, one of the other, of course, powerful things about ECRI is this alignment between Tier 1 and Tier 2. We're using the same language, we're using the same pedagogical practices, we're using the same instructional behaviors. And of course, Carol, you can elaborate on that. I saw that you posted in there as well.
No, I think you said that well. And I just think the question that was about the pre-teach, people get really hung up on that. And yes, it's really powerful that those students are introduced to skills in a small group with immediate error correction from a teacher immediately before they're sitting in their class of 20 or 25 students. That's super powerful. But what's actually more powerful is that alignment between what's happening in Tier 1 and Tier 2. And so I think in the conversations, getting past just that pre-teach idea, and also there's that judicious review, so if we're learning the letter M today and the classroom teacher's doing the letter M, and then we're still practicing the letter M for 2 or 3 weeks, even though we learn the letter A and we learn the letter P, we're still practicing the letter M in the Tier 2 and the Tier 1 instructions. So they're getting that review in both. So it would be kind of like what comes first, the chicken or the egg, what comes first, the Tier 2 or Tier 1. They're doing it at the same time. So it's that aligned instruction.
Chat for just a few more questions.
I have a question.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
That's okay. Jamie and Lori, your enthusiasm is great. And I'm in Keystone Central School District, and we're new to ECRI this year. And so we're trying to roll it out. And so I have a question for you. Early on, did you feel that the students weren't responding as well? And then once you got the routines, it picked up. Once you were more fluent with routines, it was better. This year we're starting, our kids we're face-to-face, we're in class, their kids are spread out, and they're masked. They have masks on, and so the teachers feel like, oh, I don't know if the students are as engaged as much. They feel like there's a lack of engagement, but we're only 2 weeks into this and the routines aren't as fluent. So did you feel that progressed, that student engagement, more so as you got better at the routines?
So, like so much in teaching, a big part of it was just our attitude. So and if you see Maria and Katie, Maria Neely, they're both in their mid-20s. They're these young, vibrant girls. And we are a PBIS school. So we also tied in our PBIS. And when you go through that ECRI training and you hear that no payout slot machine and the prompt and praise. We have SOAR tickets that we were just handing out left and right. Like, oh, I love that loud and proud voice. And if you go in with the attitude of like, okay, here we're going, the kids are going to be doing the same thing. So, I mean, when it was time for ECRI, it was, yes, boys and girls, it is time to do ECRI. I am so excited to see what we're going to read today. Let's get moving. Like, you have to put on that show. And if you don't have the buy-in yourself, it's hard to put on that show. So as like a personal note, my daughter is at Easterly Parkway, so she is now getting ECRI lessons in 2nd grade from a teacher who's going through this the first time. And I was listening and I was like, oh girl, you got to pick up that pace. You're losing these kids. So like right now, while we're doing our ECRI lessons, we are doing it whole group, synchronous, 4 days a week. And right now we're working on like, when do we have students unmute? When is everyone unmuted? When do we have 3 voice examples? And we're playing with that. But man, the engagement online has been amazing. And I think it really just takes like, you gotta be excited and you gotta keep that pace up. Like, we're not waiting. So even when, it was funny because in the training, you know, Carol will do that, you know, that's the teacher's droning, word. And I was like, no one does that. I heard it. And I see why kids like lose it. And that's why they're not reading all together, because even today I was like, word, word, like, let's get moving. We got to keep this up. So I think as the teachers get more confident, because right now the teachers' attitudes of not knowing these routines well and wanting to do it right is probably keeping some of the engagement down. And you just got to go whole hog with it. Like, all in, fake it till you make mistakes along the way. I mean, when we went through the training the second time, we got to the more advanced routines. And I swear we were just texting each other like, we've been doing this all wrong. We need this training every year. Oh my gosh, we have to remember to make sure we make notes of this for next year, because it's just, it is such a process. So even when we say, look at the website, I'm like, but we've gotten so much better than those videos we put out in the spring. So I almost don't want you to look at those videos because it's gotten better. So there was another question real quick that I just wanted to share about the schedule. So about the ECRI lessons that I just want to address super quick. And I'm just going to share my screen really quickly. And I can share this with anyone that is doing ECRI that would like. We are all doing the exact same lesson on the exact same day as a grade level. And then we have our tier 2 preview either the day before or the same day. So we haven't filled that in yet, but that means all 1st grade teachers are doing the exact same lesson. So last year pre-COVID, it was beautiful when we would have a sub, because we would just split up the teacher's kids that wasn't there and send them to the other 2 classes. And we could do the exact same lesson. And even though it's different teachers, it's the same routine. It is some of the same review words, learning new words, and you don't have to lose a day. This year, right now, we're remote. So we're doing 4 days of live lessons, and we have one synchronous or asynchronous lesson that we're recording a video for, and then having the students do their decodable reading on Seesaw to do that piece. So I feel like I just kind of went on 3 tangents. I apologize. I hope that answers the question about getting kids on board.
You didn't. This whole team is just, Carol and I have been going back a little bit in private messaging saying how honored we are to work with you and how amazing all of you are. And as others have said too, your passion and dedication for helping kids and it just shines through in all your presentations. That's why you keep getting it. It's like, you want to share this because you are perfect ambassadors to really share ECRI. So thank you. So any other, I know we've kept you over, but I think it's worth every single minute. Is there any like closing questions before we close off? Now, Jamie and Lori and Danielle and Jonathan, I'm sure if you wouldn't mind, I'll put your email addresses on the Padlet too. So if folks want to ask you follow-up questions, they can do that. Is that okay? Yeah, and then I also included the information for Catapult, which Carol could probably elaborate on more, but is the partner with the Center for Teaching and Learning and the National Center for Improving Literacy to scale up ECRI and provide training. Because Carol and Jess, if we could clone anyone, we would clone them for sure. They've been all over the world training ECRI, but there's only 2 of them. It's kind of hard to scale as much. As I said, I think at Patton, we wish that every child in the entire world could have ECRI. But there's only one, Carol and Jess. So Catapult has been a wonderful partner with the Center for Teaching and Learning, and Carol and Jess have very high standards for their partnerships. So, you know, also excellent training from Catapult. And I don't know if Carol wants to add anything before we close.
Yeah, the only thing is there was Michelle asked a question up above regarding, do you watch when you're doing the tier 1 instruction? And Jamie, I don't know what you're doing with it now, but when you're playing the recording, are you watching students? Are you live? I was wondering if you could respond to that one.
So when we are doing the live lessons right now, I have my students, I'm using Zoom still, and I have my students in the row on the side. And what I've been doing for this beginning few weeks is I want 2 to 3 voices to be loud and proud for this section. And I have my son running in the room right now screaming, "Mommy, I'm very sorry."
Oh, thank you, Charlie, for sharing your mom.
Yeah, there's a bad guy on my back right now. He needed to let me know. Oh, no. Will you get it, please? No. No? Okay. So I'm watching the students, but right now we've been able to have all students unmute for a lot of the sections because, and I know there's a slight delay, but their delay is pretty consistent. So even though I'm using my dot camera and I'm sliding, they are able to keep up with that pace very similar to the classroom. And with that pacing, there's really not time to not be participating. Now, I'm also scrolling and I know my kids that need this, so I'm also making sure to call on them for those individual turns. I have those kids in my sight line so I can call their name and say, "Hey, make sure you're reading this with us," because I want to make sure that those kids that I know need the most help, and here he is, that need the most help are still participating.
So you're delivering it live when you're doing the whole group now. Are you still doing the videos, and are they pre-watching or pre-participating in the videos?
So we are only doing one video a week. Oh, I'm so sorry. We're only doing one video a week for our asynchronous day. And here comes Dad. There we go. We're only doing one video a week, and it is for them to just do on their own. It is not something that we're having them record. When you saw the little girl that was doing the word jar, that was all from memory for her. That was her doing the routine on Seesaw. That was not responding to a video. That was Sweet Amelia knew the routine and did the whole thing for us.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think you guys are fabulous. So thank you for sharing with the participants today.
We all, I think everyone on here has to agree. Yeah, so a big thank you to Jonathan, who had to leave, and Danielle and Lori and to Jamie, and of course to Carol Disson. We're so honored that you would join us, and Jess Searles too. As I said, it's been such a journey at Patton, and we're so grateful that we have had the opportunity to partner with you, because it's made such a difference for teachers and kids. And so we're looking forward to that continued partnership. Yeah. So I did record this, so I'll put that on the Padlet too, and I'll make sure that everybody gets the link. Next month, our open mic night is October 21st. And I'm not sure if you folks are familiar with Dr. Pamela Snow. If you're not, she's definitely one to learn more about. She's an Aussie, and she is at La Trobe University. and recently published a research article called Solar, the Science of Language and Reading. If you are on Twitter, you need to follow her, Pamela Snow too. She's just prolific on Twitter and really truly a literacy expert. She is the EndNote speaker at the Reading League conference this year. So she's agreed to share with us her research around solar and the solar lab that they've just opened at La Trobe University. So the link that I just put in the drive gives you a kind of like a little bit of a flyer to remind you of the next open mic, and it's a link to that actual research for solar. So of course, you know, I'll be posting this numerous times, so if you miss it this time, don't worry about it. But it'll be Dr. Pamela Snow from La Trobe University talking about the science of language and reading. She has an amazing infographic to support that, and of course the importance of oral language at rest there as well. And she will be with us for open mic next time, October 21st. Again, big thank you to the State College team. They are rock stars, and also to Carol and Jess. Quite an honor to have them jump in tonight too. Thanks everybody. Have a nice night and be safe, Carol, out there in Oregon. Bye-bye.